Today on Locked On Rockies, a lot of young outfielders for this Rockies team, but the problem is there's only 3 positions in the outfield. And in reality, there's only 2.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of November in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. That's the best way to let me know what's on your mind, firing off your Rockies hot takes in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Check us out there. We even had Dodgers fans check in after yesterday's episode, because Juan Soto. Oh, there's a video about Juan Soto not going to the Dodgers. That's all right. We like anybody tuning in here. So thank you so much for checking us out, Dodgers fans as well. And folks, again, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Really do appreciate all your support. And again, I want to put this out there. I want to have the conversations that you want to have this offseason. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what questions you want me to ask. Let me know what you want me to talk about. Fire it off there in that Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Today, we're going to talk about outfield. Thomas Harding's got a piece on some outfielders that got high hopes from the Rockies organization. One in particular, we're going to talk about Nolan Jones a little bit as well, and we're going to talk about how Kris Bryant fits into this puzzle. So before we do all that, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So first things first, let's read a couple of comments from yesterday's episode just to see here. Like I said, we had a Dodgers logo guys come in and say, poor guy. And then guys come in and say, go Dodgers. So, the Dodgers fan found us there. Like I said, here's Ghastly Magician. The owners would have to significantly open their wallets to have any chance of landing top-tier free agents like Soto. And with their established history of being cheapskates, that won't happen. More likely, they would try something along the lines of Beanball, using analytics to find good players, under-the-radar players on the cheap. Problem is that they basically turn them into a glorified farm team for any of the bigger spending teams, poaching the players that they found with much bigger paydays. This team is really damned no matter what they do in almost every aspect, and yet here we are as fans. I feel we deserve a special award. The problem with that is you would have to buy into the fact that the Rockies are a big analytics team. And that's not the case. They haven't fully invested in the ways that you should. This team has not embraced the analytics side of baseball as much as they need to. This team certainly has not done what they need to do in order to find out what makes all the unique parts of their ballpark, find out the things that work, and work on those things. They have ideas. Remember, the owner of the Colorado Rockies has told us that the outside perspectives aren't going to work. They've tried things that people said were going to work. They know what's going to work. That's kind of that's the state. That's it. Again, this is a Rockies team that keeps saying, "Oh, it's disappointing. Oh, we're sorry that it's gone this way. We're better than this." Blah 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 blah. But they never have actually fully dove into addressing some of the problems. Again, they're sticking with the same coaching staff. They're sticking with the same people. There has been not a lot of turnover from the places that you'd expect turnover from a team with back-to-back 100-loss seasons, from a team that's had 7 straight losing seasons. This is why those type of things are why when every single time you read about the Rockies on a national preview level, any of these early power rankings, any of these, any of this stuff, and these early power rankings, it'll go over and trickle into the actual, spring training and everything like that, where it's abundantly clear that the Rockies are just not on the same level. I don't know. It's one of those things where you can point out so many places in which this team needed to make change. And again, I'm not just making this up. Go read ESPN's latest power rankings. Go read Major League Baseball's most recent early power rankings. And I understand talking about power rankings in the middle of November is a bit silly. But on the flip side, it continues to hammer home the perception and the narrative of the Colorado Rockies, the outside perspective of the Colorado Rockies, the narrative about the Rockies. And that leads in completely to bringing in those free agents. You nail it there. The Rockies have to make Colorado an attractive place to play, and they haven't been able to successfully do that throughout very many parts of the team's existence. Certainly not within the past, mostly since the playoffs, the playoff teams. Why go play in Colorado? And as for the, good level talent getting poached, I think that happens more so to other teams than the Rockies. The Rockies aren't afraid to extend the players that they believe are big parts of their team and hang on to them. Remember, no Brendan Rodgers trade, no Ryan McMahon trades at the deadline, no Trevor Story trade at the deadline, no John Gray. There's a lot of players that walk from the Rockies. Obviously the Nolan Arenado trade is a bit different, but Estevez and Hoffman, they just, their time in Colorado just ended. Like, it's not like they were poached or anything like that. So thank you for that comment there. And then let's see, Marco here, I think MMMCRCO, who had the question of why we even talked about Juan Soto for the whole time of yesterday's podcast. I think ownership needs to be honest with itself and fans. And the best case scenario for the Rockies may be to become the Rocky Mountain Rays. Only problem is they've slashed their analytic department, and as stated earlier this year, causing the best Paul rant of all time. Thank you for that. The owners aren't open to new ideas. I agreed 100% with the rant and shared it with others. Thank you for doing that. Ownership is counting on the magical end to the 2007 season to happen again, and that's no way to compete. We need a front office, owners who stay out of the way, GM, analytics department that properly value players, both on the team and across baseball. Rocks are known for overvaluing their players, as well as structures all level of baseball, A to MLB, around a consistent philosophy. Fans would not like more losing, but if the system is torn apart and rebuilt into a competitive, well-run organization, everyone will accept the losing for what it was, a rebuild to create a year-in and year-out competitive team. Thanks again, Paul. You are welcome. Thank you for commenting and being part of the show. Yeah, I mean, it's another good point. It's another it's about creating that sustainable competitive nature. And it just hasn't been shown with the Rockies. Consistency has never been something that the Rockies have been great at. They've never been consistently good. They've never been consistently great. They have been consistently bad. We know that. Again, there's so much to put on this. I mean, especially in this stretch right here, because it's like we're losing, right? It's all losing, back-to-back 100-loss seasons. And again, us as Rockies fans are having to go through different experiences than other teams. Different. I mean, again, this is a team that is sticking with it. All before, while leading up to these last two seasons, the 100-loss seasons, with never really acknowledging the whole rebuild thing, that they need to fully buy into the rebuild thing. Something in which they never have really done. There's so much that the Rockies could do. There's so much that the Rockies should do. Doesn't mean that they will do it there. So, all right, those we went a little long on those, but that's all right. Two good comments there that kind of sparked the conversation. So let's begin the outfield conversation. And the more I've been thinking about this, I've been kind of overwhelmed for the Rockies in general when it comes to outfield. There's just so many options and so many players that need playing time in the outfield. I just don't know how you're going to be able to do it. Now that all of these guys are kind of floating with major league ready or close to major league ready, or have been in the majors, injured, or maybe didn't get enough time up there, the Rockies have decisions they got to start making, and they have to start prioritizing getting these guys on the field. That's why when it comes to some of when we're looking at offseason moves, when we're looking at if the Rockies do add a veteran piece here for that outfield, it is going to severely get in the way of really a huge handful of players here. Thomas Harding writes about the team being excited about Sean Bouchard, and I'm going to revisit that as well. But I just want to read off just this whole list of names that can be factored into this outfield. Just competing for the outfield right now: Nolan Jones, Jordan Beck, Zach Veen, Yankel Fernandez, Benny Montgomery, Greg Jones, Braden Ward, Sam Hilliard. All of these guys will be competing for time, and you're not going to be able to get any of them time. You throw Sean Bouchard back into that mix as well there. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's up to 8 guys looking for playing time. And I know it's, again, are the Veens and the Fernandez and the Montgomerys, are they going to fully be ready to go? I mean, they're going to be close enough, right? How are you going to get all these guys on the field? Because none of them are going to play center field. And in reality, if it's me making a best case judgment call right now, I still think left field is Nolan Jones's job to lose. I don't think the Rockies are going to sit there and say an injury-plagued and down season is going to be enough to knock him out of that spot when they know how good he can be. But now so this competition, I think, will actually bring some good stuff internally. Like, it's going to push these players to making sure that they are doing everything that they can to make sure that they are ready to go, ready for these opportunities. And there's one thing that we've talked about before, but as these names continue to get closer and closer, and if you're confident in some of these young outfielders like Sean Bouchard, like we'll read here coming up in segment number 2, you have to make the decision with KB has to be made right now. And I'm not talking about trading, getting ready to. Kris Bryant cannot play an inning of outfield next year. In my opinion, Kris Bryant should not touch the field defensively at all next year. It impacts his health. It impacts his ability to stay on the field. And above all, it takes away playing time from the young guys. If we're going to just run it back, if we're going to be the young team, if we're going to be a team that's going to see what we got, just take the lumps then. Make sure that you are prioritizing the playing time for the young outfield guys, the 8 players that need to find a way onto the field this year. Maybe it's not 8, it's closer to 4 probably when it's all said and done, with some of those younger guys still going to have time in the minors. But every single time that you see Kris Bryant or another veteran outfielder out there, and that includes Sam Hilliard, I'm not going to lie, that takes away playing time from a young guy. And again, if the goal is to continue to develop and grow this team, and you're going to run it back and yada, 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 those players need to see the field. I do not need to see lineups with Hilliard and Cave in them next year. I know Cave's not here, but it's just the example. That doesn't help the Rockies grow. Let's keep diving into this here. We're running a little late in segment number 1, so let's take a quick break, and we'll dive into all of this and more here coming up in segment number 2, today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime. I love Gametime. Why? Because it's super easy. It's super simple, and it's super convenient. You need tickets to the latest and greatest events? Well, guess what? Gametime's got you covered, because they got it all. Not only do they got the access, they got great deals and so many features that are going to make sure that you know that you're making the right call when buying your tickets. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to you see your favorite teams play live even easier. And it's not just sports either. Concerts, shows, comedy, you name it. Gametime's got you covered with the all-in pricing feature that you can toggle that feature on and see the total up front. So you know exactly what you're paying for those tickets up front, no surprise fees. And my favorite feature, you're going to have a view from the seat. I love to know where I'm going to sit, where I'm going to go. It is a big, big deal to me when I am choosing seats. So you get to see those panoramic seat views and more. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot. So we're talking outfield here. Before we dive into everything, for your second listen today, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. He's got you covered there, breaking down all the storylines throughout baseball all offseason long. Okay. So we're talking outfield here, right? We're talking guys that need to get playing time. It's crucial for these young guys to get playing time here. So I want to read a little bit here from the latest Rockies beat from Thomas Harding. This outfielder is poised for 2025 bounce back. Rockies general manager Bill Schmidt believes outfielder Sean Bouchard has a positive future after 2 seasons of setbacks. Bouchard debuted in 2022, and an eye-opening finish brought his OPS to 954. He sustained a left distal biceps tear and was limited to 21 late-season games in 2023, but those were so encouraging, 1.056 OPS with 4 home runs and 7 RBIs in 43 plate appearances, that he entered 24 with a chance at regular playing time in right field. But the right-handed hitting Bouchard sustained an oblique injury in spring training, an injury that led him being sent to AAA Albuquerque and first baseman Michael Toglia making the opening day roster. Bouchard never gained traction in the majors this year, 187 batting average with 1 homer in 31 games. Although he was productive with Albuquerque, 1.06 OPS, 11 homers among 29 extra base hits in 46 games. To complete a rough year, he recently underwent hand surgery to repair a fractured hamate bone. The injury is a common one and should be healed in time for Bouchard, 28, to prepare for 2025. A youthful lineup that's capable of power but has led the National League in strikeouts the past 2 seasons can use a player who put up a .454 on-base percentage in his 2022 snippet and .372 in the 23 sample. I always believe in Sean, Schmidt said. How he fits going forward, time will tell. But throughout his minor league career and appearances at the major league level, he's shown to have a bat. He's got to get better defensively, but there is a pretty good hitter there. Unless the Rockies swing a trade or otherwise find an experienced corner outfielder with proven offensive chops, or unless Kris Bryant can finally keep his back healthy and play right field when not serving at DH, multiple young players will seek playing time. I just want to start there. I just want to start right there. Listen, you're not benefiting the young players by blocking them and saying we're putting the line, the classic, putting the lineup in that's going to win the game. You cannot just be subscribing to that. Yes, we want the Rockies to win games, but again, I personally don't think it's the best choice for both Kris Bryant and the Colorado Rockies to continue to play him in right field when it is, 1, he has not looked good defensively out there, and 2, it increases the likelihood that he's going to hurt his back. He needs to take 4 at-bats a game as the DH and be the veteran leader in the clubhouse. That is what he can do. He needs to focus on that. He needs to focus on entering that stage of his career. And yes, it's pretty crazy that the Rockies will be spending $27 million this season and $28 going forward for Kris Bryant to be a DH. But you know what? At least I will see Kris Bryant play 100 games. If Kris Bryant plays defense, he will not play 100 games. Because how am I supposed to be confident that he will play on 100 games if he's there? Mixed in with the fact that I don't want to see Kris Bryant play outfield. I don't want to see that part of his game. That is not where he's going to be elite. That's not where he's going to be a game changer. Let him be an offensive threat that he's supposed to be, and give your young guys the playing time. Give Sean Bouchard the opportunity to show what he can do when healthy. Give the opportunity to these exciting young defensive prospects that we've seen, the Veens, the Montgomerys, the guys that we've heard a lot about. And if you traded for Jones, for Greg Jones, get him on the field. Don't have him call up and just sit in the and ride the pine. Don't have him just sit there and do nothing. Right field, in reality, should be probably a carousel of people all season long, because you have so many young outfielders that you have to get data on. You have to believe in. You have to get more on. I mean, Schmidt even says it, a little bit there in that piece where he's saying, what will Bouchard look like going forward? Time will tell. That's the same thing for the other 8 guys that you got to figure out what you have going on there. And again, if Hilliard comes back, if he's part of it, that's fine. The Rockies are going to have to add veteran presence to this team. There are going to be games where the young guys probably won't make it into that right field spot. But every game you don't give these guys opportunities, and every time you don't let them have consistent playing time, you're not going to know. You're going to just continue this log jam of a bunch of outfielders trying to figure out what you're going to do with them. Because again, you're not necessarily certain that the Rockies will make smaller scale moves with some of these guys. Montero we couldn't find a single trade suitor for Montero for a lottery pick relief pitcher. I find that hard to believe. None of these young guys that if you're not going to be able to find playing time for them, if you're not liking what you're seeing, none of those young guys are worth, lottery ticket swaps or at least seeing that stuff. And they might not be. They might not be. But that just seems a little strange to me. We haven't really talked a lot about Montero just going to Japan. But my point is, this season can't be one where you just stick to the usual convictions. And again, but there's no reason for me to believe that Kris Bryant isn't going to be named the starting right fielder. Why? Because it's the same coaching staff. It's the same people in charge. I truly don't believe in this organization's ability to actually get these young guys the playing time they need and the consistency they need to develop. Nolan Jones will be different, because I think they'll buy into Nolan Jones and say left field is still yours to lose. Obviously, center field is taken care of. So that leaves one position for at least 6 players. And again, I know that Veen and Fernandez and Montgomery might be a little bit off still. But again, there's a huge backlog of right fielders in this organization. And you're going to have to make a commitment to at least to figuring out and allowing playing time for these guys. Because a lot of guys need this time. They need this experience. And if you're going to go through these losing slog seasons, at least give your young guys an opportunity to develop. I can already see it. I'm so convinced that Kris Bryant's playing right field to start the season, even though it doesn't make a lick of sense to me. They're going to shoehorn him in there. He's going to drop back for a ball. He's going to twist the wrong way, and that back is just going to continue to betray him. That position and that Coors, it just ain't going to work. And you're going to negate a long list of young guys that desperately need that playing time. All right, let's talk a little bit about Nolan Jones to finish up the show. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And remember to please play responsibly. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. All right. So we've talked about the competition. And again, I think the competition part is actually going to be great. I think the amount of, for young guys in spring training, especially, spring training is going to matter big time for young Rockies outfielders. This is your chance. I mean, this is your moment to show this coaching staff why you deserve to be on the major league roster and why you deserve to have that shot. And I think that competition is going to be really good for these guys. It just gets more complicated at the major league level when you're trying to figure things out there. But the big name, the outfielder I am watching the most here throughout is Nolan Jones, because the drop off from Nolan Jones was incredibly concerning, and still some areas that we really need to see a good bounce back from him. And it's clear that health was a factor. It's clear that last year was a washed season. He's only 26. There's plenty of time for it to bounce back. But when you look at the Savant numbers, everything is down considerably, other than hard hit percent, chase percentage, and walk percentage. Because when you look at 2023 for Nolan Jones, he was top 4% in exit velocity. He was top 4% in WOBA, top 4% of batting average in contact. His hard hit percentage was 41%. The strikeout rate, obviously still a big problem, but we saw massive drop-offs there in across the board for Nolan Jones when it comes to how he was hitting the ball. And the big one here, he only barreled 6% of his of the balls this year. That's a drop-off from 15.7% in 2023. So there's a whole bunch of stuff wrong with the swing and wrong with the offense here for Nolan Jones. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that when you in 2023, when you look at his Savant numbers, he is labeled as a great hitter. His base running value is above average. His fielding run value is on the good to great side. The core, the foundation of Nolan Jones is there. The Rockies just have to be able to get back in there and unplug that and unlock that. Because I think the best version of Nolan Jones is a 30-30 guy. 2020 and 2023, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. But I believe when you're looking at this barrel percentage, when you're looking at this slugging here on this Savant, when you're looking at these numbers, he can hit the hell out of the ball. And if the Rockies could get at least a 2020 season again from Nolan Jones, it's gonna be massive. I still think the Rockies not having a 35 plus 40 home run hitter is a big problem. But if the tandem of Nolan Jones and Brenton Doyle can work in the harmony that we know it can, mixed in with the Ezequiel Tovar, that's kind of the big that's the big foundation of the young offense right there, is those three guys. And I'm not worried about I'm not as worried about the offenses of Doyle and Tovar as I am Nolan Jones. Just because Doyle had the big jump. Actually, you know what? Doyle, it's interesting. I need to see another year of Doyle to make sure that this is the consistency that we know. But to have that improvement, have that jump, I hope that those two are working together a lot this offseason. Doyle and Jones, because I hope Doyle can go in there and be like, hey, this is what I did. This is what I used. Here's what I did to make sure that I was getting better. Here's what I did to bounce back. Because the Rockies need Nolan Jones to bounce back. And Nolan Jones himself needs to set himself up, make him a difference above that big log jam of young guys trying to figure out playing time. If Nolan Jones continues to struggle, he can't be continued to just be given a bunch opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. If there's young guys that are being successful that can get out there and make an impact for the club. Nolan Jones has not eliminated himself from this outfielder competition. So spring training is going to be important for him as well. I'm still confident, though. I think injuries, I think last year was just a weird year for him, especially things got in the way. I think that's the main problem. I think a healthy Nolan Jones helps this Rockies team, and he looks closer to what he was in that first season. But time will tell. And time will tell what the competition for outfield looks like here as well. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you're checking us out on your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. Our guy Sully's got you covered. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, because it is a busy time in Colorado sports, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.